You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, your most authoritative news analysis show. It's brought to you by MTN. Welcome to the new world, and also by Bank of Africa, as strong as a group and close as a partner. Well, great things are still coming your way this year. That in 2015 you will certainly live your dream. Get that brand new iPhone 6 Plus you have been dreaming about. Park that fresh Kia Rio Tierraba in your garage, and to crown it all, you will be your own landlord. Yes, your own landlord. Oh. Move into your own 3-bedroom house in a plush area. No land guards or rent advance wahala. No long things. This is your year. Just recharge more, talk more, browse more, and text more on MTN to change your life. There are lots of other prizes to be won, ranging from LED TVs to power banks and other exciting offers. Simply dial *120# to check your points. 2015 wafe. Just do more with MTN to win more and say welcome to the new world. Bank of Africa, they make sure that your banking experience is the one you enjoy and are excited about. They have a wide range of products for you to meet both your personal and corporate banking needs and make sure that your banking is problem-free. So they will partner you to reach your personal and business goals. Visit Bank of Africa via 0244 338 226. 0244 338 226. When you call that line, they will give you the response that you are requiring. You can visit their branches. They are all over the country. And I've got loads of your messages that are still coming in respect of the police matters, and you are saying it is going on in fire service and all of that. All of you are mentioning and talking about personal experiences that are going on. Maybe that justifies the call for perhaps a commission or a committee to look into it deeper than it is being done now. Some say the IEA survey on corruption does confirm all the rot that is going on. Sorry, I'm reading your messages in block because there are just too many of them. Just too many of them. Now, let's see if we can do some issues with regards to religion and tribal hate.
Johnson.
Yes.
Very quickly though, as most of your online Facebook followers are indicating, if indeed they do have that evidence to show that in these other areas there is these practices going on, as I said, the office of the president has set up a desk.
Okay.
So if they are not comfortable using the recognized institutions, they can come and file the complaints to the office of the president, and they'll be looked at.
Okay.
Perhaps that could even encourage the setting up of the Commission of Inquiry.
Why is it equivalent to the Office of Accountability set up?
No, it's not. It's just a desk.
Well, I thought you people
I think that there are
so
people
much.
who don't trust that kind of avenues.
Well, they
rather,
see results.
If they see a committee or commission, they'll rather go to the commission.
But what I'm saying is that there has to be a lot of effort to try and instigate.
Right.
You know, an isolated case of this nature, whilst it is big, it's only about the police. So if people have similar evidence about fire service and prisons as they are indicating, they certainly should be encouraged to bring that forward.
Okay. In the course of last week or the week before, an issue came up. There were Muslims who took to the streets and demonstrated. We'll talk about this week's demonstration also. Who went to the street, took to the street to demonstrate against what they say was religious intolerance and discrimination, which is against their fundamental freedoms guaranteed by the Constitution. So they petitioned the parliamentary committee, the caucus in parliament. They sent petitions to various places. The president addressed the nation and had something to say, a warning direct to give. I think we have him on tape on that. If we can hear the president as he addressed the nation and what he had to say, which now is being blamed for the hyping of that issue.
And that is why I've recently been worried about a few events that have affected the atmosphere of ethnic and religious peace that we have enjoyed. I'm sure that our society has the absorbers to withstand these shocks, and that is why my heart was gladdened when I noticed the unanimity exhibited in the recent demonstration held in support of equal citizenship. I also note that on the issue of religious relations that I sought to clarify as president during my State of the Nation address, a citizen of our nation has headed to the Supreme Court to seek an interpretation of the relevant clauses of our Constitution. We will all await the highest court of the land to discharge its mandate. But I wish to indicate that government is not averse to the use of interfaith channels and dialogue to resolve any disagreements among our different faith groups. I have therefore only yesterday asked the National Commission for Civic Education to join the National Peace Council in initiating a dialogue to foster an amicable understanding on how to operationalize Article 21(1) of our Constitution. Ladies and gentlemen, this is without prejudice to any conclusion the Supreme Court of our land would arrive at in respect of the suit brought before it.
Okay, so that's the president speaking yesterday, and he made reference to what he had to say earlier in Parliament when he gave the State of the Nation address. And Mr. Ekoto, I'd like to start with you on this note. What's gone wrong with our understanding of Article 21 in respect of the provision that guarantees one's expression of choice of religion and manifestation of same? Article 21(1)(c) says that all persons shall have the right to C, freedom to practice any religion and to manifest such practice. Some say asking Muslim students or pupils to attend morning devotions or devotions in the schools is an infringement on this right.
Well, let me make the initial comment that I'm not very happy with this kind of posturing at this time. We are looking at ISIS, we are looking at Boko Haram and all the problems that we're having around the world with people thinking that we need more of an Islamic state than, you know, other states, if you like. And we saw the brutal killing, beheading, you know, of people. The Coptic, you know, Egyptian Christians who were lined up at the beach and beheaded, about 20 or so. I mean, your heart bleeds seeing people's heads being decapitated in that manner, you know. And then you look at Boko Haram and what is happening, you know. I mean, nobody is safe. There's nowhere you can go where you think you can be safe. In the marketplaces, everywhere, you know, even young people are now being strapped with bombs to go and explode and then just cause a lot of damage, harm, and injury, including death to innocent individuals.
What's the relation with this issue?
I don't know at this stage. We've had this country going for 58 years. You know, we've had political intolerance everywhere. We've had mosques. We've had, you know, churches. Why? Why at this stage? Why are we now making so much noise, if you like, over so-called, you know, discrimination? Looking at Article 70, Article 35, Article 21, and all that. These things have been there throughout. So why are we now stoking the fires? You know, so are we asking some of them to come and say that, yeah, you are discriminating against our people? So we also say Boko Christianity. You know, it's Haram. Christianity now becomes Haram in our country because we think that Muslims are not being taken care of. I don't like that, where we are going with this thing, and I think that it is wrong. I have read most of the statements issued, and I think almost all of them appear to have some, substance in there. You are going to an institution. You know what the institution stands for. Before you filed your papers and said, I wanted to belong to this institution, there are rules and regulations of that institution. It says morning devotion and all that. Why all of a sudden you now realize that you're a Muslim and that you don't have to go to a morning devotion? Why didn't you choose Ahmadiyya? So you go to Ahmadiyya institution, but you chose to go to a Christian institution. Now they say, follow the rules, and now it becomes a huge problem for you around this time when we have Boko Haram and ISIS. I'm not very happy with it. I think that we should let sleeping dogs lie. Those who are pushing this thing, I do understand that if you look at the American history, they have left Britain and gone to America. They don't want these peers and squares and, titles. So it's that we want to be a republic and we don't want a state religion like Anglicanism or something in America, in Britain. Let us all be free. Let us practice our own religious faith and all that. Unfortunately, during the fight for colonialism, we had to write constitutions to ourselves. They themselves are Britain. They don't have any constitution, but we had to write constitution. And then these things were borrowed from America and put there. I don't see why at this stage we are hammering on so-called discrimination of Muslims. And of course, I would understand that, look, if you take a picture with is it hijab or something hijab on, and you are going to write exams, how would I be sure that you are the same person sitting there? Because
I
maybe
suspect that one, they have not made an argument.
Exactly, that is one of
them.
They
appear to have agreed that
but that is why it started.
Should hold.
If I do recall, that's how this thing started.
That came up first.
Yes, and now it's going on. And I mean, why should you put on something to take a picture and then we're going to write as I see someone else, I'm not too sure whether you are the same person. So they say, take it up, let's take your picture, let us know that you are the individual coming to write the exam. Just for writing exam's sake, you finish and go away. I mean, there was time in these courts, I don't know whether you came and met it, but there were some judges who would not allow ladies to enter the court unless they have covered their hair. You know that.
Even to today, most of the judges do not allow people who are wearing dreadlocks to come in without covering them.
You see, so these are some of the rules, and it's just for a period. I mean, you are not always in court, so if you go to court and say, just cover your hair before you come, and you do that, for that period, you go away. So I think it is needless to stoke these fires around this time. It is completely needless. We've lived in peace. We've known Muslims. I mean, we've lived in places where
you are speaking and ignoring the fact that the mission schools are not exactly what they used to be or what they set out to be, because now they are funded by the taxpayer.
Does it matter? I'm saying that you should choose where you want to go. If you want an Islamic education and you know there are Islamic institutions, why don't you just go there? And you chose to go to a secondary school and now you say, I want to insist on ABC. Of course, if they want to go and try it at the Supreme Court, why not? That's why the Supreme Court is there. So
yes,
that if there are problems of interpretation.
I choose to go to a school which belongs to the taxpayer. Yes. And I am a taxpayer.
Yes.
The fact that I am...
But the school has rules.
The
school has rules. I mean, universities have rules. If you go against the rules, I mean, if you take material into an examination room, for example, you can be chalked out.
So the point is that the rules of the school must approximate to the Constitution. And in this case, the claim is that you are abusing our rights.
There is no absolute right anywhere. We have all accepted that there is no absolute right anywhere. You insist on having an Islamic state, that is our palaver, but we are saying that that is not what we want. Of course, if you go to Saudi Arabia and you go and find an Islamic state, that is what they do. I'm being told that you can't find one church there. I mean, Christian church, because it's an Islamic state. We have decided to have, a political, plural society. We've decided that we do not need to have a state religion, if you like, but then we want to work within the Constitution and make things work. And I believe that where we are threading It's not the best. I don't see why at this time what has
we'll come
really
to talk about
happened
the
for them
approach
to be
at
doing what they are
resolving the
doing at
difference
this
that
stage.
is rearing its ugly head, so to speak. Dr. Percy, do you hear Mr. Aiko to sound as though he's oversimplifying the problem and the solution?
Well, you know, we started talking about independence, and I spoke about the fact that Nkrumah and the CPP set us on a Republican path, on the path of a unitary state, equal citizenship. And we've spoken about the basic law, the Constitution, which speaks about religious freedom. Ordinarily, if you're entering a Catholic institution, you expect that you would obey the strictures that they put, except that, as you said, rightly said, what we have are institutions that are being funded by the taxpayer. Now, you know, this and several other issues, I'll call them unresolved issues, keep gnawing at the fabric of our national cohesion. Okay, we cannot take the approach, unfortunately, of allowing sleeping dogs to lie. Okay. Now, there was a certain compact between the state and the religious institutions that allowed for the state to take over education in the context of the overall responsibility of society to educate the next generation. Okay? At that time, no church would have been capable of providing free education, more or less, literally. Today is not the same. Today we are in a situation where people are paying for secondary education. Okay? And people, because of the various issues about jobs and the future of their wards, are willing to sacrifice, to spend a lot of money to get the best, quote-unquote, quality. So, for instance, there's a word around that, look, if you go to a Catholic school, the outcomes are good. Okay. So, in the changed circumstances, the religious institutions are in a very strong position if they say, give us back our schools. You understand?
I've heard some of those suggestions.
Yes,
I've heard them from people who are highly placed within those religious institutions.
Precisely. And I'm saying that I'm taking it from the path we have trod. Okay? From a situation where education was the business of society and the right of any individual born into society, to now where it is a commodity to be purchased by those who have the means. Okay? There's been a fundamental shift in the foundations. Okay, we may not have realized it, but this is one of the results. Okay? And in the wake of all of this, I thought the president made a very quote-unquote harmless statement of just underlining what our Constitution said. Okay.
Are you referring to his first statement or the one he made yesterday? Because the first statement was sort of a caution which was received as a threat and in support of...
He was merely stating the position of the Constitution and the state. And in response, I thought I heard a Catholic bishop say that they don't take threats from individuals. The president was speaking as the head of state, stating the position of the state.
That it will not be countenanced.
Yeah, you see, I mean, I was taken aback when I realized that this was a Catholic bishop. Okay? He speaks about law and order, We cannot have a state of lawlessness, not least when the president is underlining the fundamental position of our constitution. Okay? But this speaks to other issues that are not part of our conversation today. Okay? But which runs, I mean, it's like the elephant in the room. It's at the center of many of the issues that we face now. Which path do we take as a unitary state, as a republic? With the rules applying wherever you are in the territory of Ghana. Because these issues have been there, okay? People may not have complained about them, okay? But it has come to a head because of a particular incident. Can we pretend that it is not a problem? We cannot. Okay. I think that, yes, if it's a public facility, then as far as possible, okay, the rules should allow, okay, what do you call it? I mean, the rules should respect our constitution, okay? But yet, we would be failing if we don't recognize the historical path we have traveled, okay? Now, making the point that once upon a time, no church will be making the point they are making now, because they will not have been in a position to provide the facilities that were the state was providing. Today, we have a complete reverse. When I was entering secondary school, those who came from private institutions, you could count on the fingers of a hand. Today, it is the reverse. Okay? There are many things that have been transformed in our short life. If you ask me, backwards. Okay? And these are some of the sad fruits of that process that has brought us to where we are. Yes, I think it is worth sitting down so that we come to an understanding, okay, that to the extent that you started out as a religious institution, there are certain restrictions that you can impose, but what are they? Okay, that also allows space for people who are pursuing this because they're coming there because it is also a public, state-supported facility. Okay, and I think that it should be possible to do that. Now, the truth is that there are 1,001, maybe not 1,001, but at least dozens of fissures and divisions in any society that if we want to, we can push to the point that we have cracks and break up. Okay? It can be ethnic, it can be color of the skin, it can be sex, it can be sexual orientation, whatever. From where I sit, the most important division is that of class, which we hardly speak about, okay? Which determines whether you benefit from the toil of your labor or whether somebody else takes the lion's share of what you produce. That is a central issue. If we're going to make any headway in terms of becoming, masters of our destiny, taking charge of our lives, getting out of this situation of individual and collective poverty that we are in the midst of plenty, of a lot of potential, that is what we have to do. But it is easy to be sidetracked and to be divided up on the basis of ethnicity, religion, whatever. I would say that those are non-material issues.
Dr. Park, there are those who, once again, to that point, and let's keep, strictly, if we can, to the real issue, really. There are those who say that it is the president who elevated this, discussion in the manner that it's brought the tension because he spoke first and suggested that appropriate sanctions, and those were his words, that appropriate sanctions will be taken against any head of institution who acts contrary to the constitutional provisions of Ghana. And the owners or the supervisors of the mission schools felt that was a direct in defense of those who were claiming that they are being discriminated. And so he's to blame for this. But he's spoken again yesterday, and you find that he speaks about the issue rather in a different way.
Well, Samson, first of all, I think that the president, being the commander-in-chief and as somebody who has sworn to uphold the Constitution, quite clearly cannot be faulted for, performing his responsibility. Indeed, the Constitution does say in Article 21, and you mentioned the subsections, that there is freedom of religion. And therefore, if, just for the sake of argument, it didn't even have to be about religion, which of course is a very sensitive issue. Let's say it was about any other constitutional provision that had to do with the rights of, equal rights of every citizen. And there was indication that some citizens felt that they were not enjoying that right. Would it be wrong for the president to call attention to the fact that we are all to enjoy the same rights and freedoms as provided for under the Constitution? The answer obviously is no. So I find it a bit strange that the president is being faulted for stating the obvious. If I was the president, I would have stated the obvious, because the Constitution says that we are all guaranteed freedom of religion. Now, perhaps it is some of the events that occurred before the president made his statement which may have caused people to misunderstand him. I can say that the president will be the last person who will be interested in heightening any type of tension in this country. At the end of the day, if anything goes amiss, he's the one who is going to take the blame. And I honestly believe that he was well-intentioned. And if you read that segment that he made that pronouncement in its entirety, he mentioned the fact that the Constitution does not, or the Constitution prohibits anyone to compel another person to worship this way or that way. And he said it. He mentioned Muslim student, and he mentioned the contrary, Christian student. And I thought it was fair and balanced. Now, what I found interesting was the fact that, the Minister for Communication had issued a statement, obviously on behalf of government. The Minister for Education had also caused a statement to be issued. And then, of course, the president spoke. And then you had the PRO from the GES speaking publicly in a way that totally suggested that the president's call that those who violated that constitutional provision will be sanctioned was in order. Because you don't go out and make a public pronouncement contradicting a government policy, a directive given by the president. And I thought that worsened the situation. I don't know how many people picked on that, but I think that, the commentaries that followed, even including the statement that was issued by the Catholic Bishops' Conference, sort of drew some inspiration from the pronouncements made by the PRO of the GES. And as far as I know, the GES does not make policy, it implements policy. Policy is made by the Ministry of Education, which represents government. So for a subordinate to purportedly make a statement contradicting the position of the appointing authority, and therefore setting the stage for what then followed, was very unfortunate. And to be honest with you, I felt that the statement by the Catholic Bishops' Conference was an overreaction. Truly, I mean, if you read the content, it was very short and brief. But when you use language like cowed down by any intimidation or threat of sanction from any individual, I felt that what the president said certainly should not have elicited such a response, particularly coming from a well-respected, group like the Catholic Bishops' Conference.
Okay, since you are referring to that, let me just read a portion of that to you. They said this, that we, the members of the Catholic Bishops' Conference, have followed with grave concern the recent developments in our dear nation with respect to calls for unregulated religious practice in our schools. We note in particular the unwarranted threats of sanction coming from government circles. Needless, we are stating that no citizen in Ghana should allow him or herself to be cowered down by any intimidation or threat of sanction from any individuals. Then they gave this assurance. Says, consequently, we wish to assure heads of our Catholic educational institutions to remain resolute and not feel unduly intimidated by threats of sanctions. We expect our heads to continue to manage our schools in ways and practices that are in conformity with our Catholic identity and mission. Meanwhile, we are open to initiating dialogue that will bring consensus as early as possible to resolve the issues amicably.
Yes.
In conclusion, they say, we join the Christian Council of Ghana in advocating dialogue on the issue at stake. We believe that the Ghana Peace Council has the capacity to deal with this issue in broad consultation with all stakeholders, especially religious leaders who own and manage the mission schools. Until this is done, we wish to call on government and all other persons to refrain from issuing statements or making pronouncements which may not help in finding a practical, peaceful solution to this issue. Dialogue is a key for in reasoning with others. Through dialogue, we obtain justice and peace. Yes. Signed by the Most Reverend Joseph Osei Asare.
And I quite clearly agree with portions of it. For example, the last sentence, I would have felt that at least the language, at least in the first paragraph or the first section, which is titled preamble, would have been what is in the concluding part of it.
They are stating their faith and their conviction.
The president never said that.
They do not want that to be diluted.
The president didn't say that there should be a deregulation. I mean, we all read the president's comments. That is not what he said. So, and that is why I felt that, perhaps
the president said a Muslim should be able to go to that mission school, okay, and not be compelled to take part in the what do you call it? The devotion.
I went to a Catholic school myself. I went to Nanam Secondary School. When I was there, we had Muslim students. And as far as I remember, they were not compelled to participate in the activities that we Catholics participated in. In fact, provision was made for them to build a mosque where they worshipped. So indeed, maybe we have to go back in history and try to do some analysis to trace why suddenly, as earlier commentators indicated, said why these things are beginning to become issues. Because I remember I read an article by
a fantastic article.
That even in the 60s,
right,
when he was a student and attended a Catholic school, provision was made for Muslim students to worship.
Right. Now we're Mr. to speak about the fact that when you are going into the school, it's a mission school. So why do you on your own elect to get into a mission school, and then after you have gained entry, you want now to impose your practice, so to speak?
Fair and good. That is a fair comment, but that is the more reason why I believe that the president in his most recent comment has called on the National Peace Council to work with the National Commission for Civic Education to try and resolve this issue.
Do you think this is what you should have said?
Then he went too far.
At the time when he made his earlier statement, he could not have had the benefit of all of these other developments after. And he was merely stating the position of the Constitution.
Yeah, but he should have spoken last. He should have spoken last.
He should have stated what he stated. And if I was him, I would have stated what I did. Because I truly don't think that the president should be faulted for stating the obvious and asking that we all endeavor to uphold the Constitution.
Other than that, otherwise you'll be sanctioned.
If you break the rules, if you engage in an act that contravenes the Constitution, what is the position of the law? No, you are a lawyer. What is the position
The
of the law?
president cannot sanction me. The presidency cannot.
The president can sanction you.
He doesn't have the power to
The
sanction
attorney
me.
general can be called to take you on for breaking the law.
That's right.
And the attorney general represents the president.
That's correct.
So the president was merely stating the constitutional position.
Like I said,
Too early.
there's an elephant in a room. All of this, really, all of this, and many others, about chipping at the legitimacy of this president. The people who don't recognize him as president. They don't, simply.
A law professor put something this way to me. Let me ask you in that way. He asked if are Muslims in Islamic institutions allowed the freedom of choice not to dress in accordance with, Islamic tradition, or say how another friend puts it here by text. Are girls in Muslim schools who don't want to cover their hair allowed not to do so?
Yeah.
That's a question.
So I'm saying that, look, there's a place for looking at all these issues. Okay? If we have slept over them, okay? The fact that they are coming up now suggests that we can no longer go back to the good old days.
Okay.
Okay? But the simple point is this. If the president, as president, states the position of our constitution, he cannot be faulted.
Okay. But he asked that should be sanctioned.
No, the president never said that it should be unregulated. Okay? And I'm making the point that all these are proxies for people who are politically opposed to him, who don't recognize his legitimacy, and who do whatever they can whenever they have an opportunity. Okay? Now, it is silly to tell me that you can go to the Peace Council, which is a creature of state, okay, or the NCC. These are all subordinate to the president. But the president cannot speak on this matter.
You see,
But that's the same
I think
solution the president is proposing.
I think you are overstretching the matter.
No, I'm making it very simple. I'm saying that
of the nation.
This comes up time and again.
We all know what these, religious things can do.
Yes, we do.
So that to have come out to say that, look, this is what the Constitution says, so let the people insist on their rights. You are the last man to have...
The president did not say...
That is what he has done. No, at the end of the day, that is what he did.
That's not my reading of it.
That is why all these reactions are
That is not my reading of it. The president made a very simple restatement of the position of our constitution.
The GS was there,
of course,
have dealt with the issues.
I think he was doing this in the context of the State of the Nation address.
That's right.
Okay? He could, for instance, have spent a bit more time on elaborating on how we have come to where we have come. Okay? But be that
so he spoke about our coexistence.
Okay.
Yes,
Now let me go to Abdul Malik here. What do you say? How do you appreciate what is going on?
See, I've been reading the statements issued by the prominent stakeholders, including the president. The president has made two.
Yes, two statements.
Yes, the second one appears to be a refined version of the first one. It's an improvement. That must tell us something, that the president is reacting to the environment and what is going on in the environment. Not to suggest for a moment that what he said in the first one was unconstitutional. He didn't commit any unconstitutionality in making that statement. He was basically talking about how the Constitution is framed and what the
He has sworn to uphold the Constitution.
Yes, so I would not split hairs over that. But the fact that yesterday he went back to the subject and changed the tune should tell you that he's reacting to the environment and the issues coming up and down. So I'm sure with the benefit of hindsight, he may have even the first one crafted it in a different way. But I've read the statement from the national leadership of the Muslims in Ghana. I've read the Catholic bishops too. they're all pointing in the direction of the need for dialogue.
That's right.
So why the earlier public noises? Because those inflamed passions, those brought about, you know, the agitation. So if all these people are elders, they are issuing statements, and the statements, they are stating their positions, and at the same time, they are calling for dialogue. Well, war at the same time. I would suggest that, and I'm with Mr. Ikutu on the sensitivity and delicacy of this matter. It's an explosive mix when you put religious intolerance alongside the truth-centric, you know, agitation and sentimentalism. It's explosive. If we are not careful, we might not be able to handle it. But you see, the GS thing, I found it quite interesting. They were clear in their mind that there are school rules and regulations, and that anybody who goes in there should respect those rules, including attending morning devotion if that is compulsory. This is a wing of government. Okay? In a way, it was in contradiction with even what the president has said earlier on. So even the lack of coordination coming from the state or representatives of the state did not help matters. The Minister of Education, I think was on your station, was trying, walking a tightrope in putting out the need for tolerance, the need for coexistence, but was not very definite. No, this is a very delicate issue. I really, if you ask me for my personal thing, I've been asking myself where it came from. How did it just suddenly become an issue on the front burner? And with emotions, you know, very charged atmosphere. I have a very serious difficulty. But once it's become an issue, fair deal. Somebody is proceeded to the court. I don't think, really, whatever the court does will be a final prescription for this mischief. Even though it is right. I don't think one can take it away from the person. There are areas perhaps the court could pronounce and may bring some clarity. But the human element, this whole issue we are dealing with, will need to go beyond legal regimes to let us cohabitate and coexist relative to religion. That's the way I see it. So I think it's at the time people keep quiet. Those leaders especially, the elders, who themselves are going to be instrumental in getting this dialogue going and finding solutions, ought to exclude themselves from the public arena when it comes to the arguments and the debates. That's the first condition for them to build a certain level of confidence in dealing with the issues at stake.
Thompson, just a quick comment. I want to say that indeed, I think it is a very sensitive issue, and quite clearly, it must be dealt with with a lot of circumspection. And I think that is why the president's call is very welcome and must be supported. And I want to believe that, you know, all of the stakeholders at least would abide by their willingness to present themselves for a serious dialogue to try and resolve this issue. But I must also commend the National Media Commission, not because I'm a member, but at least if I may take that opportunity to state it, for cautioning media practitioners also to be very circumspect in the way the topical issues of the day, I think it is now religious tolerance, stroke intolerance, and ethnocentrism, are discussed in the public space. For these two, if you scan the global scenario and you look at history, either of them can lead to a lot of, you know, discomfort, let alone having two of them rearing their ugly heads around the same time. So these are times where we as media practitioners and presenters and hosts, we must deal a lot with circumspection.
The Peace Council, the Christian Council, and the Catholic bishops, it appears all of them are agreed that the best way is to dialogue, and there is an opportunity for dialogue. That and the court, which is the way.
Surely, I mean, the Christian Council and the Peace Council thing, I think, would be a better option. Because, you know, the courts can make declarations, and it depends upon how one looks at the declarations made by the court. Assuming the court says that, yes, we have a right to insist on your rights, that is going to create a difficulty. Assuming the court says that, look, balance whatever, you know, rights you think you have, that having agreed to go to an institution, just go by those rules. You know,
because your right is not absolute.
Yeah, then somebody says that, no, but this is not a proper interpretation of the Constitution. I understand the Constitution, that I have a right and I'm free to manifest my religious whatever in the way that I like. You know,
do you sincerely feel there's an interpretive issue at stake?
Well, clearly, if the man says that I have my right and to practice my religion and to manifest it the way I want it, and I'm saying that I am not a Christian, so you cannot compel me, you know, to go to morning devotion, clearly, then the issue is, what is the meaning of my religious rights and the way I want to manifest it? You know, so that could
what
be
I'm asking
an
is,
issue.
should it be an approach of interpretation or enforcement when enforcement as in a human rights enforcement?
Oh, usually the two go together. You interpret and enforce.
Okay.
You know, you can interpret and enforce that. Where this is how we understand this particular article, and this declaration or orders, that the consequential orders we are making will be to enforce them. You know, so interpretation and enforcement when it comes to Supreme Court.
But in the situation where the person who has sued has not been wronged, how
it's
is
a
there going to be an
public interest.
enforcement for
If
him?
it says that it's a public interest litigation,
Okay.
you know, I feel that I'm a Ghanaian and these issues are rising,
Right.
and so I want you to come out and say something about it. You
Okay.
know. That one.
Is it your
Yes.
position also that the Christian Council and the NCC, that's their approach, that's how it should?
Well, I think that you're posing a question whether it was interpretation or enforcement. I think it's not an either-or issue. I think the critical thing is one of respecting the spirit of the Constitution and elaborating arrangements that build on the multiplicity of identities. Okay? Because it's clear that if you're going to make anything work of this unitary state business, we'll have to make many accommodations. Okay? So what are the rules and regulations that are necessary for an educational institution to function? Say, how best do we respect the rights of individuals? Okay, in that context, it's one of that elaboration taking into account our particular history. Okay, but above all, but where we want to go.
Okay. Right, thank you very much. You're still here on Newsfile. You're coming to you live from Kokomlemle. This is your Joy News channel on Multi TV. You're listening to us on Joy 99.7 FM and also on Love 99.5 in Kumasi and over a dozen affiliate stations across the country. Dr. Park, I was surprised to learn. I was speaking to the clergy and trying to find out a few things, and I discovered that when the Catholic, church built the university at Fiapre, in the plan there was provision for a mosque but not a chapel.
Interesting.
There was provision for a mosque but not a chapel. Until the students now came up to say, look, we need a place to worship, so serve us as well.
Always coexist.
Very interesting.
Marriages.
And some of the messages here coming in say, what is Aiko talking about? He should desist from making such disparaging comments. What has the demand for freedom of religion got to do with Boko Haram? Is he saying that it's only when other faiths are subjugated that Ghana will have peace? He should stick to the legal issues than this discrimination comment that he is making. That is from Harris Musa. Prince Tahiru Wayamson from Chirponi says, Samson, Okay, forget about the praise singing. He says that, okay, I should extend his regards to senior most lawyer Ayikwe Otu by putting the law where it belongs. Okay, so while some are criticizing,
that's politics.
That's life.
Okay,
it's not just politics.
That's right.
Nobody will ever.
All right.
Not everyone will be in agreement.
Okay, and then Gideon Opoku says the schools do not belong to the taxpayer. Rather, some aspects of the schools are subvented by taxpayer, such as paying teachers, feeding and paying utilities. I don't know which secondary school you attended. However, when you go to Cape Coast, you will find that most of the infrastructure was provided by the church and old students. That's right. And then the same about me, my school too. The Methodist Church, for instance, collects money from its members into a development fund that is used to cater for their schools and other institutions. I think the Catholic also does, and perhaps maybe better. So that's really the case. Okay, someone says we should stop religious intolerance. Let's go to the Peace Council and resolve this issue amicably. On the issue of the police recruitment, Ace Ankuma is asking the question. You mean to tell me that a commissioner of police will commit such a stupid offense with his name written all over it? The man has busted criminals virtually his entire life, but will commit such such a harebrained crime that has a signpost in bold and red? Bust me, I am a dummy, written all over it. Either he is 2 years old, or some people think we are 2 years old. I hope you understand the deeper things behind that particular text message. Sure. We'll be right back and read just a few more of your messages and continue with the discussion. All right, tons of your messages coming in about the religious matter. Now let's hear Akwesie Champong. He says Dr. Park should remember dialogue and consultations resulted in the agreement to allow the Muslims in his Nandom Secondary School, Catholic school, to build a mosque on campus, not threats of sanctions. That is where the Bishops' Conference are pointing to. Nana in the UK says, Samson, I think the religious thing is a non-starter. I work as a teacher in a Catholic school in the UK. We do have some Muslim students there, and they all adhere to the school rules. When we pray every morning during form time, they join in, but are Muslims. Let us think about better issues than what will bring issues that will bring joy to us. It's only in a country of lack that we hover about issues like this. Kofi Atta in Cambridge, UK says, let those who are demanding the freedom to practice their form of Islam know that the right to freedom of religion is not absolute, but a qualified right. That is to stop the excesses of faith that could damage society. Fred in La Côte d'Ivoire says, in Ghana today, you cannot have anything done in the public sector unless you pay your way through. Something, there is despair everywhere in Ghana, and what the newspapers report is saying is an understatement. Samuel Bryan Boabing in Awoshi says the solution to negative ethnicity, political tribalism will only be apparent when we realize where the problem lies and decide to deliberately deal with it. In my considered opinion, the problem lies with our conceptualization and practice of democracy. To be sure, the politicians should treat corruption as an epidemic which needs to be contained. Treat corruption as an epidemic. That's an interesting one. Your views and comments are still welcome. 1422, that's the text line, 1422, and also 1760. We'll share them with the rest of the world.